Ready? All right, so I have my first point for the weekly of code review. So we'll take the first point of rescheduling the call over to Slack, and going on to my second point. So I shared with some of you the procedure to score the OKR for Q2 and the large MRs, and I wanted to have the opportunity to discuss that a little bit. Last week, we were discussing how to weight each page, because we had 3 pages, 2 measurements for each one of those pages. That's like 6 numbers, but then the OKR needs 1 number. How do I digest all of it? And we came up with some approach to the weights using the timings of each page. And I think that's somewhere in the agenda down below. And then I executed on that. Now, what that means is we arrived to the number of 69% accomplished for the OKR, which is a good result overall. I'm pasting the numbers. I still think it's not truly representative of the impact we had, but that's another story. But I'm happy to score it as using the LCP rather than the fully loaded, because it has at least some bigger impact on the users. But I wanted to hear your thoughts. Anything before we commit to that number that you want to talk about? Kai, especially, you weren't here last week.
I'm fine with that. I think you're right. 69 is pretty good. Most OKRs, I think they say you should achieve like somewhere between around 70 or 80%. Otherwise, you sort of made it too easy or whatever. So getting right there at 70 with as little time as we had and as much as we got done feels like a pretty impressive result. So I'm fine with that as a methodology and that as a result. I think it makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sharing some things. I'm gonna share the learnings on the Ally OKR as well. I shared some what went wrong, what went well. Feel free to add more thoughts onto that epic, because I feel like that's the central point that everybody's looking at. But overall, I feel like we did a very good job. I think we prioritized the worst offender, the changes tab over the others. Like the commits tab wasn't very worked on, and when we pick it up, we have the previous milestone 14.2, where the delays, the total blocking time and everything were outside of the tab. It wasn't specific to the commits page. And we were talking about like 300 millisecond difference. So all in all, I feel like we did a good job at focusing on the worst offender. I don't think we did a very good job at picking the right metrics at the beginning. Mea culpa as well. We should have discussed that a little bit further about using a better metric. Regardless of that, since we're losing the 10K reference architecture pipeline artifacts after a couple of days, I've already asked Tommy to start archiving the reports on a monthly basis, because that will at least gives us one monthly snapshot going forward, so that we can always go back in history and have the full report of site speed. Because we do get like the top measurements, like the LCP, the TBT, all that we get on the pipeline output, but we don't get the full metrics. And we also asked the JS heap used to be added to the historical dashboard. So I feel like that's going to be meaningful for us too, monitoring the memory usage for the pages that we are tracking. To be added, there's a space there. So yeah, good stuff overall. And I guess that's it. I'll just commit it to the Ally, and 70% sounds good. Any thoughts? Can we move on?
Yeah, just for Ally purposes. So from the backend side, I wasn't sure what to put in Ally either. I ended up the score that you had, but there was confusion. Maybe it's a good retro thing that Epic confusion about how we measure it and how to track progress. We were asked in different ways, including being put all tasks there and then track progress against that, which isn't, since our OKR was based on a specific number, we can't say like, well, we made progress towards that. It's hard to measure, but yeah, maybe I'll add some information in there, but I put something similar to that effect in Ally, but then it's weird because like I have all these subtasks of that OKR that's are like 100% done or 80, and that adds up to 80, 90% or something. but then the score is 70% or 60%. So
I think it's worth mentioning that, Matt. By the way, your sound is coming in echoed a little bit. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear anyone. Hold on.
I can hear you.
You hear me? I've been having problems.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I think there's some wrong with my headphones. I'll just take those off.
Can you hear us now?
I'm good now. Okay.
Yeah, your sound is coming with like a little echo, so there might be something with your connection or something.
Okay.
No worries, we can still hear you.
It's the
I'll work
video
on that
too.
after this.
It's like resending chunks of you talking, but yeah.
Okay, so going back to your point, Matt, it might be worth capturing that on the Epic as one of the things that we can improve, because you're right. Throughout the quarter, we're asked for progress, and that's on the subtasks part. And then when we're measuring the success of the OKR, we're measuring the impact it had. There's no easy answer there. We either track one or the other. We'll always lose the other one. Yeah, lay our thoughts there, and we'll see what we can do. From your perspective, how you can score it, I think it's fair to measure the impact, because even though we have these numbers and a lot of it was front end, it wasn't all front end. There was collaboration, some movements. Even though you have the caching being rolled out still, the goal was the metrics and the results. So same scoring, I would say.
Yep. Agreed.
Right. Next point. I wanted to bring up the opportunity to discuss a little bit about the ongoing work for InfraDev and the engineering allocations, especially since the front end is not highly focused on that. We have our work and trying to finalize 14.3 today. But I just want to take the opportunity to see if there's anything that's coming up that feels like we might be able to help. Matt, is there any update on progress for Kaizo?
Yeah. So we first focus was InfraDev issues, which are almost done. There's one that really is going to be 2 MRs. One's merged, one's in review. The other one was a caching change that we rolled out and then caused a production incident, and so we had to roll it back, and so we have to revisit that. So that's what I've been focused on the last couple of days. But the InfraDev, and then we, like Andre alluded to, we're starting to roll out caching changes, which is work that we had planned on anyway. We're hoping that impacts on the budget, although so far it's hard to tell so far. I'll say that. We've seen some improvements in the timings, which is good on the ones that we've rolled out. So we've got like dispatch on Friday, and then the merge request show was Monday, and the discussions was earlier today. So we're rolling those out, and so we'll see if those have impacts. And yeah, I think they'll need more work. But just those initial caching changes that we were doing to really make impacts. So that's what will be our next steps. And then I'm not sure, Andre, you had mentioned front end help, maybe the that merge request, the show controller, if they could do it more honestly or something, which is definitely an option. The problem is we just don't know quite yet of what's going to be needed. So
yeah, on that, I think my decision there was I label it as a front end, consider it a 0.1 of weight to have it as a standby, because that one in particular, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities and options that we might take that will require some adjustments on the front end. Saying if the show is going over the threshold very often, we might want to remove some of those queries to an Ajax request later. And that will require some front end work inherently.
Sure,
so I don't want you to be blocked by not having a front end. So you'll have one available. The other one I wanted to bring your attention, maybe not for this milestone, but for the future, is that like this one, there might be an opportunity to move data from the batch diffs or the diffs metadata, maybe. I think mostly batch, move to a moment where they're needed. One of the ones we've already identified and talked about on the issue is the suggestions. So we only need the suggestions data when you actually request them. So there's an opportunity to move that information out of the batch diffs, and then the front end will request it when the user clicks on it on a comment box or something.
Right. Oh
So
yeah.
if that helps, great.
Yeah, that's good. That diffs batch is a
Heavy one.
yeah. We have so the AirBud budget, what really is kicking us at it's requests that take longer than backend does. And
yeah,
like there's a couple API ones that are, for example, the get API for like a list of merge requests. We get, I'm trying to think, like in a day, I'm trying to look at the numbers while I talk, maybe 80,000 cases where it's more than a second, but that's out of 10 million or something. So it's a low percentage, but we're not counting percentages against the error. It's individual.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And diffs batch has fewer instances, but a higher percentage. So that should be a focus of. It's almost 10% of the requests are take longer than a second. So it's what we need to focus on probably. But yeah, it's tricky. So yeah. But I appreciate that help. And yeah, if there's ideas for like you just had about removing data, those are certainly welcome for this effort.
Okay. Thanks. I mean, for now, I think we can focus on that show action and go from there. Okay. Any more thoughts on this effort? Questions? I had one question then, Kai, on that topic that we were chatting yesterday about the numbers of the, so the context is, should we invest time in optimizing the user scenario where you follow a link to a diff file or a diff line or a note on the merge request changes tab, where we could, instead of calling all of the batch diffs, we could call just a batch diff for that file, render it, then the user would just request to render the rest of the page. Now, we're not clear whether that scenario is common enough to justify it, and we're looking to learn more about the usage. So the question is this, Kai, should we schedule something for this milestone to come up with the numbers of that? Or should we just do it amongst ourselves and find some engineer to help with the production access to get those numbers from somewhere? Or I don't know, how you want to go about it?
You're looking for, because the next number you want is number of files in that merge request, right?
Yeah, a number of
Visits
to the diffs tab that have a fragment for a diff file or a diff line. They're both. Because you already have the one from the notes. You got that for us.
Wait,
and I think we
say
do
that again.
So you already gave us the one for the notes. We want to visits to the merge request diffs page that have a fragment for a file or a line, because those those are the two other scenarios where we can optimize and only load that file instead of the whole set.
Oh, if you give me what those fragments look like, I can do that.
Okay, then we'll figure that out.
I just don't know what those
ourselves.
fragments are. I only knew the note fragment off
Alright.
the top of my head.
Well,
Yeah, if you give me those, I
take care
can
of that
I
in
can
sync.
get numbers for those for the last
Oh,
30
perfect.
days.
Awesome. I'm glad we cleared that up. Right, and yeah, it's not for scheduling for implementation for this milestone, just to get it ready for the next or whatever, whenever it's possible, and to have the discussions around it knowing the usage. So cool. Right. Any other points?
No, can you just add those fragments to the issue and tag me, and then I'll take care of it. Okay,
Yes.
cool.
We'll add to the issue and tag you. I think I wrote that wrong. We'll do. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you. Have a good
Yeah,
week.
bye.